Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another video here today, and today we are going into the Seattle Seahawks, the final four teams. The Seattle Seahawks is the fourth to last one here. I'm excited to go into this. Is a team that I have a passion of loving and hating because I want to root for them, but also they have such a painstakingly good history against my team. But either way, I love Geno, love his story, I love these players on the team. They're fucking great, especially on the offense. I think it's very, very exciting. Defense is kind of boring, but either way, see what I am going to say here in the video today. Let's get into the video after you like and subscribe and comment any suggestions for future videos below. Let's get right into the video. So again, as always, going through the depth chart and talking about who's on this team. First of all, we got Geno Smith. Geno, the last couple seasons, 3,600 yards, career revival in 2022 with 4,200 yards and like 30 touchdowns. Fucking great. Had him on my fantasy football team. Got me to the championship. Lost. But hey, we take it. I love Geno. I don't see him doing much, to be honest with you, though. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be suitable. Sam Howell's on that team now, so is that a possibility? I don't know. I'm going to say Geno is definitely going to be there as long as he's healthy. But you never know. Sam Howell actually, in my opinion, showed at least some promise of a lower-level starter quarterback. We'll see, though. Not really much to say there. Kenneth Walker. I think I'm starting to fall out of love with Kenneth Walker. I don't know what about it. He's explosive, he's fun, but I just haven't seen consistently great stuff from him. He's fine, he's good, but Zach Charbonnet's got something to him that he's almost got a promise that I feel like is going to take away a lot from Kenneth Walker. I don't know necessarily they'll split for at least the first half of the season, but like Zach Charbonnet has a possibility of kind of taking a little bit more of that role away from Kenneth Walker. And I'm not promising that. I don't necessarily think that's going to definitely happen. But it's definitely a possibility that I can't really put Kenneth Walker in the categories of, old, where I could definitely say, okay, he's going to do very well. Because, I mean, he's only put up 905 yards last year or something like that, and just barely over 1,000 the year before that. So, is he really going to be capable of continuing a good trend and maybe being around the 1,000-yard mark? Maybe. We'll have to see, though. This receiving core is honestly a low-key one of the better ones. At least I would say that in previous years. I do think Geno's going to regress, and I think he's going to have one highlighted target, and I think that will be DK. I think it has been slowly falling in line that DK has been the main target for Geno. And I think DK actually has a promise to have a very stellar year, which will come at the cost of other players. I think DK is slowly building himself up to a Justin Jefferson type person, not like level in terms of how good he is. 'Cause I think he'll still just be like a top. I think he could break into a top 10 conversation. But I don't know if he'll really get to that level of Justin Jefferson or anything like that. I just think he has the body build for it, and I think that's what he's developing as a style of play. And I think Geno likes him, and unfortunately, I love Tyler Lockett. I really, really do. I mean, he's so great. Sometimes the Cinderella story has to fall down, and I think as much as I love the value of drafting him in fantasy football, I just don't think this year's his year. That's kind of my thought process. I think he's still an end zone target. I think he's the guy in the end zone. It's hard for me to say that Tyler Lockett's going to be just as good as he was the last couple of years. I mean, stick to the trend as long as it's there. I mean, he's done it. But I'm not buying into it this year. I don't think as much. I still will draft him because I love Tyler Lockett. But, man, Jackson Smith-Njigba, you can put him anywhere. I think he's a typical wide receiver 3. He could probably break over that 700 mark. But kind of just take your pick there. He'll be around Tyler Lockett, but probably more yardage than touchdowns with Lockett. So then Noah Fant. He's fine. He's probably the prototypical 500-yard, 3-touchdown quarterback. That's pretty much it. This O-line, fine. It's good. It does the job. Nothing really spectacular to talk about with this. Not stupendly bad. No, not really stupendly good either. And here's where my hottest take of the video is probably going to come from. A defense and the secondary. None of this moves me. I look at these players. I look at some of the highlights. I look at their stats, and like I just feel not moved. I just don't feel anything from this team. And yeah, I can probably put them at like 45 sacks or whatever, 44 sacks, 43, whatever. I just don't see that, even though they have done it. Call me crazy. Then the interceptions. I mean, they've never been a really heavy interception team since the Legion of Boom days. So take that as you will. They've gotten like 11 and 13 the last couple of years. Sure, still impressive. Reek is still fast as fuck and great in Madden. But other than that, I'm just I see these players, I see their highlights, I see their stats, and I'm like, okay. And of course, the new head coach taking over from Pete Carroll. I don't know what's going to come from that. I don't see good things for the Seahawks next year. We'll see, though. But I don't really have anything to talk about because I think, again, I kind of went over the stats. I kind of just have these here in case I want to refer to them. But, yeah, let's kind of just jump into the stats. I think I have some conversation pieces to talk about. All right, the Seahawks. Jump right into it. Geno Smith. I'm going to go, he's going to regress even further and probably get to like 3,300 yards. Maybe a little bit more, but other than that, not really. I think his touchdowns will be fine, 22. It's about the same way he did last year. I think he'll have a little bit more rushing upside. I just feel like that this team this year will probably utilize his rushing because he was a really big rusher 2 years ago, but then he was like fell off a big time with the rushing. So sure, I'll give him a rushing touchdown. He seems to be pretty consistent about that. And then 10 interceptions, pretty good ratio. Move on from Geno Smith, kind of boring. I don't think Kenneth Walker will be getting over 799 yards. I think Zach Charbonnet is going to slowly take in and eat away from that. And I think while it is possible for Kenneth Walker to go 899 yards, just don't see it. 8 rushing touchdowns. Again, he's been pretty good about getting into the end zone. So weirdly enough, even though I think by their body build, you think Kenneth Walker's more of like the elusive, while Zach Charbonnet would be more of the power back. I think it's weirdly enough going to be the different utilization there of Kenneth Walker's just going to get a lot more in the end zone than Zach Charbonnet. Well, I think Zach Charbonnet will just be there for a lot of downs, if that makes sense. So I also give Zach Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker the benefit of the doubt of getting more rushing touchdowns, but I could see that being as low as 6, maybe 5. But I'm going to go 8 just because he had 8 and 9 last a couple of years. So I'll keep him in the high category because I'm also wanting to draft him from a fantasy football team, and I'm trying to say like positive about the Seattle Seahawks touchdown and points abilities. Moving on. Yeah, I genuinely think DK is going to have a breakout year. I've been thinking about this. I've been sitting on it, and I've been wondering. At some point, I kind of ran out of receivers that I mentally could replace if I wanted to opt out before I made this video. But I've been throughout this whole series of saving this kind of slot. It could be the 1,200 spot too, honestly, if you want to kind of show that. I think DK is going to have a breakout year. I think Geno loves him. I think that if Sam Howell does on the off chance come in, I think that Sam Howell will love him based on his throwing ability from previous games. DK, I think, has all the makings to be a 1,300 yard receiver. Now, I don't think he's going to be on the higher end of this of those tier. I think it's going to be like about 1,300. But man, he's a beast, and when he gets going, he gets going. I think he's going to be one of the big highlights of this team. I think Geno's going to really highlight him this year. Tyler Lockett, like I said, you can probably put him in the 700 to 799 category. I kind of felt bad not doing it, but I just don't have the slots anymore anyway. I just don't see it. He's good in the end zone, 6 receiving touchdowns. Boom. Noah Fant, like I said, prototypical 500-yard, 3 receiving touchdowns. Move on. The O-line doesn't move me, but it's good enough that I'll give him 30 to 40 sacks allowed. Move on. This actual defensive line, I'll be honest with you, this is mostly due to me not having any slot stuff. I really realized that. Luckily, a lot of teams left. I would put them on the lower end of sacks, but I probably would give them more credit than 34, but that's just also me not understanding where I've been putting defenses. Either way, less than 34 sacks for the Seattle Seahawks still makes a little bit more sense, but I could see them being around the 40 mark. I'm not going to count them out totally, so this one is another one that I'm not fully confident in, but it's kind of likely in my mind. Less than 10 interceptions. This one I'm definitely a fan of. Because I have plenty of spots in terms of the lower end. But less than 10, I just don't. This doesn't move me. They can maybe get 10 exactly. That's all I can really concede in my mind. But either way, less than 10. Moving on to their schedule, and this is a very, I think, up and down schedule. There's a lot of easy win games. There's a lot of winnable games. There's a lot of losable games. Looking at their division, I think they split across the board. Cardinals are good enough. Rams. Obviously, the Rams are pretty damn good. Honestly, God, I could see the Seattle Seahawks going 2-4 in their division, but I'm going to give them 3-3 because the Seattle Seahawks are. You know what? I'm going to give them 2-4 for the sake of this. Fuck it. Bears, Lions, Patriots. I mean, they probably lose 2 of these games, right? I mean, I just think that 3-6 at this point. They'll split here, go 4-7. You could say they lose both of them, but I'll give them benefit of the doubt. They lose against the Bills, 4-8. Of these 3 teams, sorry, because I already counted the 49ers. They lose 2 of them. Maybe no, just lose one. Just lose one. I'll give them that 6-9. Then split these games, going 7-10. They are pretty prototypical 7-10. I kind of discredited them throughout this whole thing, to be honest with you, because I started at 2-4. I gave them a couple of losses I probably shouldn't have, but they could be easily 7-10, 8-9. 8-9 is kind of where I feel like they're going to land, but 7-10 also doesn't feel like it's that bad of a landing spot. I don't think they'll go 9-8 though. I'd be kind of surprised. That's it for Seattle Seahawks. Kind of straight and to the point, kind of boring, kind of more middle ground team. The 7-9 teams are not really that interesting to talk about. Love DK, love what he's been doing, so that's what I'm excited about for the Seattle Seahawks. Either way, guys, I'll see y'all in the next video.